Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Chat. I'm Dr. Diana Bitner with True Women's Health, and I'm here tonight to talk about rebooting for fall, how to get a fresh start. So I always talk about, why do I care about this? Why am I here tonight and connecting with you all? It's because I've been there. I've been there year after year of being busy in the summer, and then all of a sudden fall hits and my fall clothes don't fit and I'm tired, and I thought I would lose weight during the summer and I gained, and it's like getting back into the swing of things. And I care about it because I want to take what I've learned for my own self, but also taking care of lots of you all, lots of women of all ages, but especially focusing tonight on midlife and menopause. Take what I've learned from all of the lessons, all of what you shared with me, and then share it with even more women. My goal is to reach as many women as possible so women don't have to suffer, so women don't have to struggle with all the things that can affect us, such as weight gain or mood changes. And so tonight, what I want to talk about is how to maybe think about or organize our thoughts around this topic. So for all of you who are here live, please feel free to chime in, comments, questions. I'd love this to be as interactive as possible. And so it just makes it a lot more fun. So as we get started, I want to start with the number one concept that I've learned is that it has to start with a goal in terms of us rebooting for the fall, for ourselves. It has to start with a goal that really means something to us. If our goal isn't as meaningful as it could be, then it's hard to make that decision of avoiding a hamburger or turning away that second glass of wine or getting on the exercise bike when you'd rather not. So it starts with a goal, such as by the holidays, I want to, it could be a weight goal that I want to fit in a certain dress for an event. I have a patient whose daughter's getting married in December, and so that is her goal. It might be having more energy. It might be feeling more rested. It might be not having hot flashes at work and having, work be a very seamless experience. It might be feeling really organized every morning as you get the kids off to school. What is that goal? We call that goal your picture of self. How do you picture yourself in an event? Is it an event such as, again, a work event? Is it a spring break trip that's going to come after the holidays? So again, it's having that goal that means something to you, that's really critical. So we think about picture of self, first of all, again, as an overall goal. So for example, I get to give a very important to me, a talk in Portugal for the International Menopause Society. When I'm there, I want to feel strong. I want to be confident. I want to be rested. I want to have high energy. I want to feel really comfortable in my skin. And so I'm gearing everything I do now toward that talk that I give at the end of October. And so it's an overall sense. So I really think about, how do I feel on a really good day? I asked someone today, think of again when you felt really good. You feel like yourself. You're able to do what you want to do. What does that look like? And one tool we have is the workbook. So you can get the workbook on the website. I took this from the office today. And so it's the workbook that we have where you can write this stuff down. If you're not in Michigan, not able to come to True, at True, we have binders that are your workbook that you use every visit. But the workbook can be a really nice way to write about this in terms of, being very intentional. And so there's the page, creating my picture of self. And so it's all about the concept and then really doing some writing about it. I like to bubble write, where I write an idea and then write another idea and see it all come together. We then go to picture self by category. So we think about wellness in 9 different categories. And these categories start with A. So I'm a list person. And so I came up with this list, and it really seems to encompass all areas of wellness. So we think about how we might want to be in terms of our ability to be active. So that means, how many times a week do you want to be able to work out? How many times a week do you want to be able to do aerobic versus strength training versus stretching? And then what do you want to do for fun? I love to kayak. I love to hike. I want to be able to ski till I'm 80. Those are my goals. How active do you want to be? Some women are like, I don't want to do all that. I want to be able to travel, walk in the city. I want to be able to, just maybe not be as active, but still be very functional and not have limits. And some people really are much more sedentary. They're okay with that, being maybe working in their garden, doing activities of daily living. They're okay with that, but they want to be strong and not risk falling, for example. B stands for obesity or risk for obesity. And so it's all around how do you want to feel in your skin in terms of your muscle mass? Do you want to have a six pack on your abs, or are you okay in terms of like, I want to be strong and I want to feel like I can, fit in a certain size pants, or I am comfortable when I'm naked, so it's like, how do you want to feel in your skin? And in terms of if you're really concerned about heart disease, for example, you might think about weight for health risks, not for more how you feel. C stands for cancer, and it's looking at risk of cancer. So some women, of course, that is their most worrisome part of their health is, what is my risk for cancer? My mom had uterine cancer. I want to make sure I don't. And so it's looking at risk for cancers, and we focus mainly on the top 3 cancers that happen to women: breast, colorectal, and lung. And so we look at those cancers in terms of what do you want, and then where are you at now? D stands for diabetes. What is your risk for diabetes? And do you want to have diabetes? Do you want to have the health consequences that go along with it? Of course, most of you would say, of course, I don't. But again, it's putting time and effort into thinking about that. E is ease of coping. How well do you want to cope? Stress happens to all of us. This is a crazy world we live in. And many of us in the midlife and menopause age, we're in that sandwich generation. So we might be concerned about aging parents. We might be concerned about our children growing up and being launched. We might be worried about a job. We might be worried about inflation. So whatever it is that we're concerned about, how well are we coping? So I don't know about you all, but I want to be able to cope well with no matter what comes my way. In terms of ovarian function, how do you want to be in terms of those symptoms that come along with hot flashes, with night sweats, that come along with the perimenopause or the menopause? G is good bones. How strong do you want your bones to be? I don't know about you, but I, again, want to ski till I'm 80. So I want to know that my bones will be there for me and I don't have to worry about falling and breaking something. Heart disease, again, how do you want to be? I had a patient recently whose mother died of a heart attack, and she is very concerned about her risk. And she has an image of that, and she does not want to do that to her children. And so she's very focused on everything around how she can avoid heart disease. Then we look at I as income security. It's not necessarily about how much money you have, and we certainly don't want to know that, but in terms of, are you living within your means? Is your income a secure topic, or is it something that you lay awake and you stress about? So how do you want to be in terms of your income security? And maybe that means you go back to school. Maybe that means you choose a different job. Maybe that means you take a chance on a new career. So it's all about how secure are you. So again, as we start this new chapter of the seasons and maybe of your life, it's how do you want to be in the future? And so as we think about that, one thing that we see commonly is women come in midlife and menopause because their activity is maybe not where they wanted it to be over the summer, for example. And so as we talk about activity, it's again going to a goal. You want to be able to run the Fifth Third run. You want to be able to ski this winter. So then we break it down into, where are you now in terms of your activity? So again, in the summer, we think we're going to be maybe more active. And we're more active maybe doing fun things like being outside, boating, going to the beach. But maybe we're not making as much time for exercise because the kids are home and we don't want to go off and exercise when they're home at night and everyone's around. So maybe it's time to get back into a system of a regular exercise. So again, place and process is thinking about, where are you now in those activities? So we think about, number one, if you pull out your workbook and we think about A is activity, we think about, again, what are you doing now in terms of your aerobic exercise? And you might say, I'm doing it once or twice a week. I'm going for a walk. I'm walking the dog, but I'm not really getting my heart rate up. And then we ask about strength training. What are you doing for strength training? So again, it's to write down, maybe you're doing 2 strength training, or you're doing 1, or you're doing some sit-ups and light weights. Does that reach your goal of how much you want to be able to strength train? And so then it's thinking about, what are your barriers? So if you're not working out as much as you want to, is it that you don't know what to do? And so it's thinking about, how can I learn more about what to do? It's, how do I lift weights? How much weight do I lift? And in the workbook, there's some good suggestions. For those of us who are here in Grand Rapids, of course, there's so many opportunities, but it's thinking about, what is it that you like to do and what resources might be available. I love to work out with a trainer and work out with Mitch. Many of you have met him on our Facebook page, but also it's using the Peloton app, for example. I think the other big trick, other than just figuring out what you like to do and what you have resources to do, what you're capable of doing, is learning to put exercise on the schedule. So every Sunday night, I make a list of what it is that I want to do this week, and then I put it on the schedule, just like I do in terms of being at the office, in terms of other responsibilities. I put that exercise on the schedule just like I would any other obligation. And that can make a really big difference with whether or not it happens. If it becomes one of those things of, oh, I'll get to it later, then it's really difficult to make that happen. So in terms of activity, it's putting it on the calendar and then tracking, looking at each day, thinking about in the morning, okay, where am I going to put this in? And committing to doing it. And then at the end of the week, looking back, what was hard? Was there a barrier that came up that I didn't expect? And how am I going to get around that and fix that for next week? So again, it's having a goal, figuring out where you are compared to your goal, making a plan, and then tracking and looking for those barriers that you might not expect. So the next one that I want to talk about is the other very common one that women ask us about, of course, is weight gain. So weight gain is one of the biggest concerns that women have in midlife and menopause, because it can be very confusing. It can be, I'm doing the same thing, I'm exercising, I'm watching what I eat in terms of I'm not eating a lot of treats, I've really pulled back on the alcohol, I've pulled back, and I'm still not losing. It can be really, really frustrating when you think you've got your body all figured out and then things change. And so what we see very commonly is, again, midlife and menopause causes changes to the body that make weight loss a lot more difficult. So as we think about weight, it's number one, understanding what you want. So in terms of what you want as a number, in terms of what weight did you feel really comfortable at? So as you think about what your goal is, when did you feel really comfortable in your skin? Maybe not our high school weight, but certainly a weight in the last few years that felt really comfortable. But even more importantly, it's thinking about, what do you want in terms of muscle mass? What do you want in terms of body fat percentage? And so it can be really helpful to be able to get on a scale like we have at True with the impedance, so you can actually tell how much body fat you have and how much muscle mass you have, but then also looking at waist circumference. So waist circumference is a really important measure, and the healthy number is to be less than 35 inches. And the waist circumference is not at the most narrow part of your waist, but it's at the part of your waist that's right at the edges of your hip bone, on the top of your sacrum or your tailbone in the back, as you bring it around just below your belly button. And so if you're able to measure your waist circumference, the goal is less than 35 inches to be as healthy as possible. So that number can be really important for us as your doctor to know, look, we want you to be healthy. We want you to have a low risk for heart disease and diabetes, but that waist circumference is something that you can also easily measure at home. That muscle mass, say hello to my kitty, Poseidon. So that muscle mass can be really important, but it's important to know what it is, and sometimes it's hard to have access to that scale. Once you've made those goals, it's then to understand what maybe are those challenges. And so it's to understand that muscle mass is a critical part of aging. And so as you think about not only what your goals are, it's then thinking about what might make it harder for me to lose weight than somebody else. Do I have a medical history of gestational diabetes? Did I have diabetes when I was pregnant? Do I have a history of polycystic ovarian disease, which tends to be a condition where women gain weight really easy in their waist circumference and their belly fat, and it makes it really hard to lose? Or do you have a family history of diabetes? Do a lot of women in your family have diabetes as they age, as they go through menopause? Do a lot of women have and struggle with obesity? And so it might be harder for you from a metabolic standpoint. And so it's really important to understand all that. And then as you evaluate this, to have blood tests such as an A1C, such as a fasting blood sugar, such as a cholesterol level, again, just to understand what you're working with so you don't get frustrated. As you're thinking about what you want to do to lose weight and to understand, it's important to think about all of those habits called the seeds that we'll talk about in a minute. The next thing to understand is phase of ovarian function. So again, we've talked about goals for activity, goals for weight loss. But again, as we're going through midlife and menopause, it can be really important to understand your phase of ovarian function. I've had several patients who come in and say, I haven't had a period for over a year. I'm really frustrated with my weight gain. So let's talk about, what do I need to do for exercise? What do I need to do for weight loss, for food intake? How does that change? I'll say, well, the first thing is we need to understand, what is your phase of ovarian function? Because it really can change from reproductive to perimenopause and menopause. So this is something that we have information about this on our website. You can take the quiz of phase of ovarian function, but I want you to know just a couple basics. Reproductive phase is when your periods are very regular. Perimenopause is when your periods change by more than 7 days. Late perimenopause is when your period changes by more than 60 days, like you might go 60 days without a period. And menopause is when you haven't had a spontaneous period for over a year, or if you've had your ovaries removed for surgery, let's say for endometriosis, or maybe you've suffered cancer and have been treated with chemotherapy or radiation that has made your ovaries not work anymore. So you're in induced menopause. And so menopause means the absence of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, those hormones that us women have when we feel more normal, more regular, and we have normal cycles. And so as we go through these phases, we see many changes that impact our ability to lose weight. So I think about perimenopause like the perfect storm. The symptoms of perimenopause, let's say hot flashes, night sweats, they make it very difficult to sleep. They can cause stress during the day. They can make us feel very tired, low motivation, low energy, and we don't want to get on the treadmill. So there's that part of it. So the symptoms can be very disconcerting and can change our ability to do those normal habits. When we then have the changes in our body, we have changes with our liver, with insulin resistance. We might have changes with our cholesterol. We have changes with how our body reacts to exercise. And we also have changes with our muscle mass. So these changes together make a perfect storm that make weight loss really difficult as we transverse the perimenopause into the menopause. And it can be really important to know this, as well as be able to then potentially treat menopause with the standard hormone replacement therapy. So one thing I want to bring up is our symptom circle. So our symptom circle is a tool we have on the website. So there will be a link in the chat. You can go to the website and click on the symptoms to see if these symptoms are interfering with your ability to reach your goals. So as you're rebooting now that it's fall, if you're able to go to the symptom circle and look at the cutouts. So around the edge of the symptom circle are the different symptoms you might experience. Again, hot flashes, night sweats, mood changes, changes in your sex drive, changes in your energy, changes in your bladder function or vaginal dryness, and changes in your bleeding patterns. There's cutout windows in the symptom circle of what you can do to make the symptoms better and what you might have done or what your body is doing to make the symptoms worse. I invented the symptom circle because I wanted you to have the tools in your hand to know that, number one, you're not crazy. These symptoms are real. There's a symptom circle right there. So the symptom circle is to show you. So let's look at hot flashes and night sweats. And so with hot flashes and night sweats, for example, low estrogen can cause a hot flash by changing your thermostat. And if you're still having periods, you're most likely to get those symptoms the couple days right before a period. So as those symptoms come, it's to know that's why I don't feel like getting up and working out. So maybe today, and then I'm going to take a nap and do some yoga, get to bed early, and then tomorrow I'll feel more like doing a more intense workout. It's to give yourself some grace to understand where the symptom comes from, but then to use that symptom as a reason to really understand more about your body, where you are, and to seek help. And so this is just to give you that information, not only for yourself, but also maybe for your family members who are wondering what is going on with mom, what is going on with my wife, my partner, my girlfriend, my sister, but also maybe to take to work. I remember I had a patient who took the symptom circle to work, and she was teasing her coworkers, and she was charging them $1 a turn. But it can be really a cool tool to bring everyone together to understand, again, this is a life phase that happens to all women. Some women at 35, some women at 55. This is a phase that will happen to all women. And the more we can band together and talk about it and understand, the better that it is. So, as we go through this, it's, again, important to understand those changes. And then it's, what do we do about it? So, there's so many things. So many women are saying, just, is there a magic pill? Everything starts with habits, with a healthy lifestyle. So whenever I think about rebooting, I always go back to the seeds. And on the website, there is, which is truewomenshealth.com, we have an ebook called the Seeds ebook. Seeds stand for 7 essential elements of daily success, which is just a fun way to talk about the 7 key lifestyle habits that make a really big difference. And again, this is a list that's really cool in terms of you can use it to track if those are the habits you're doing. Excuse, my cat was laying on the book. So the seeds, it's going back to what are those basic habits that I can do. And if you go to your workbook, it describes each one of the seeds. So let's talk about, Amy, I'll get to that in 2 seconds. So when we talk about the first seed, it is water. And Amy, this actually fits, or Amy Jo, this actually fits into the thermostat. So number 1 is water. So water is so important to have. I think we all kind of just take it for granted that, oh, I'll get my water today. But I disagree. I think we've got to be really intentional about our water. And when we're looking at water, it's not just, oh, I had 5 glasses of water. It's looking at net water. I saw a patient today who was drinking 20 ounces of water a day, and she is having 16 ounces of coffee, which, if you're watching, I'm not shaming. It's just, to point it out. She's having a net of 4 ounces of water a day is how I think about that. So being very dehydrated, it can be hard to exercise. It's very hard to energize and get going. So Amy Jo, where I mentioned this, water is really important because if we're dehydrated, it can cause almost a stress response, and it can help trigger our thermostat. So just to go away from seeds for a second, let's talk about what happens when your thermostat is broken. So a hot flash happens when our thermostat has a very narrow comfort zone. So normally our thermostat has a 4-degree comfort zone. So our thermostat is in the back of our brain, and it is in our brainstem. It controls those basic body functions like blood pressure and heart rate. So our thermostat is there to control our body temperature because all of our enzymes, all of our organs work at a really pretty narrow range, right around 98.6. So our normal comfort zone is 2 degrees above and 2 degrees below. So our body doesn't react much if we go up to, let's say, 100.6, or if we go down to 96.6. But let's say you're sitting at a basketball game and you've got a turtleneck on and there's people all around you, you're going to start to warm up. And when you get over that high limit, let's say 100.6, you're going to sweat, right? So that sweating is your air conditioning coming on. We're not turtles. We can control our own body temperature within reason, and we do that by releasing heat by sweating. So we vasodilate, our blood vessels on our skin dilate, we get warm to the touch at our skin, which again is releasing that heat, and we sweat to help speed that up. If we get cold, what do? We shiver. That's our furnace coming on. So again, that's how we control our body temperature. When we lose our estrogen, our comfort zone goes to 0.4 degrees. So that's what I mean by a broken thermostat. Instead of having a 4-degree comfort zone, we have a 0.4 comfort zone. So women in menopause will often say they're always a little too hot or a little too cold. There's never just right. And they're really good at layers. So many women will say, I'm okay during the day, but at nighttime, forget it. I wake up and I'm sweating, my pajamas are wet, my sheets are wet. So what happens is, at the end of the day, maybe we're tired, we're cold, we put on our cozy jammies, we get in bed, maybe we've got a bed partner that's warm or the dog gets up on the bed. And so we were okay, right before we got under the covers, but we get under the covers and we heat up and it's a whoosh and we're throwing the covers off and sweating. So that tends to happen again when our estrogen level is low. It can also be triggered again by hypohydration, by not having enough water, by having more sugar, which can cause a stress type reaction, by having a low blood sugar. So, for example, I'm in menopause. I choose to take estrogen, and I still sometimes will get a hot flash. I know I'm on plenty of estrogen to avoid that hot flash. But if that happens, then I go back to my seeds to think about a trigger. Did I drink my water today? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Did I have a glass of wine? Yep, maybe that triggered it. Did I have a dessert? Yep, maybe that triggered it. Am I really stressed out? So, yes, Amy Jo, you can sweat drying your hair. So, what I would really ask you if I were talking to you, I'd say, how much water are you drinking? So, if you're dehydrated, it can take 3 days to hydrate and it can take 3 days to dehydrate. So, let's say you haven't drank a lot of water all night, didn't drink water. Maybe you got in a hot shower and then you get out of the shower, you're in the bathroom and it's still warm, you're dehydrated, and then maybe you're a little bit late for work. And so as you are having a stress response, you're dehydrated, your core temperature is hot from the shower, then you're going to sweat. By now you're hurrying, you're drying your hair, and you've got the heat on you. So I would just want you to look and see if you could peel away that onion and just start again with the seeds. So number one, are you drinking your water? Okay, 70 ounces a day, sometimes more. Great. So then, number two, are you carrying extra weight? So maybe over the summer, like most of us, maybe you had extra treats. I don't know, I had my share of s'mores this summer. Maybe you had some extra alcohol. Maybe you weren't able to exercise as much. Maybe you're obviously also in menopause. So are you carrying a bit of extra weight? So think of extra weight as like wearing a sweater we can't take off. So if you're carrying extra weight, that's just going to add an extra layer to where it's harder to cool off. So I would definitely think about that. Other medical conditions, of course, just so we don't forget that, we think about thyroid. Are you hyperthyroid? So it's important to have your thyroid checked. Is your blood sugar, Amy Jo, that's funny. So, is your blood sugar too high? Is your blood sugar too low? And so it's looking at those kind of factors in terms of triggers. So again, going to the seeds, again, number one is water, number two is sleep. So let's say you're having a lot of symptoms and you're not sleeping. If you're sleep deprived, that's going to trigger the thermostat to cause hot flashes and night sweats. If you're really sleep deprived, again, that stress response, that increased cortisol response, that can cause hot flashes and night sweats. So it's so important to get sleep. We think about 7 hours a night or 50 hours a week. And most of us, you might have one night where you don't sleep as well. Then the next night, it's really important to catch up and get some good sleep. And so it's to think about that as a goal for the week. Let's say you have a night where you just don't sleep well, and you think about, well, I'm afraid I might take a nap and then I'm not going to sleep as well tonight. If you need to take a nap, can you just take a 20-minute nap, and just set an alarm, don't get into that very deep sleep where it's going to be hard to wake up and be functional the rest of the evening, but just have a really quick 20-minute nap and then get up and do what you have to do, maybe even go for a walk or exercise, have a nice salad with some salmon on it. But to think about how can you catch up. The third seed is nutrition. And so we talk about nutrients. Again, if you go to the Seeds Essential book or the workbook, we think about those macronutrients. So number one is thinking about our carbs as 5 servings a day, our proteins 5 servings a day, and Fat, healthy fat says 3 servings a day and 1 treat. So we think 5, 5, 3, 1. A lot of people ask me, okay, what is a healthy carb? A healthy carbohydrate is one that has lots of fiber. So I was very disappointed to learn that bananas don't have very much fiber. They're one of my very favorite foods, but I've had to pretty much give them up because they bump my blood sugar too much. It's not the healthiest carb because it's low fiber, whereas a pear has 5.5 grams of fiber versus a banana only has 3. So a healthy carbohydrate is one that has a lot of fiber. An Ezekiel English muffin is a healthy carbohydrate. It has 6 grams, I think 5.5 or 6 grams of fiber in an Ezekiel English muffin. So of course, nothing better than an Ezekiel English muffin with a little bit of low-fat cream cheese for a little protein, and then some salmon, some arugula, favorite lunch. So it's thinking about how can I get 5 healthy carbohydrates, 5 healthy low-fat proteins, and 3 healthy fats, such as nuts, such as olive oil. I don't mind a little, almond butter myself. So it's thinking about what healthy fat can we have. And then maybe just 1 treat. And the earlier in the day the treat is, the better. And so, in thinking about that, again, what really changes as we go through midlife and menopause is our insulin resistance, or we're less tolerant of sugars. So what happens is that our blood sugars get higher quicker, and what happens? It more easily goes to fat. So it's really thinking about more and more focusing on higher fiber foods. And even if you're not insulin resistant in your labs, let's say your blood sugars are normal, including your A1C, you might be insulin resistant in terms of how you respond to a food. So let's say you eat a food now that you could have eaten back then. Let's say it's an avocado toast with a piece of sourdough bread. Before, your blood sugar wouldn't bump, and now it does. Now, if you eat that avocado toast with white bread, you're going to gain weight, whereas before you didn't. And so it can be really important, again, just as a hard and fast rule, to focus on thinking of anything white as a treat. So white sourdough bread, it's a treat. And so again, it's thinking about those smart macronutrients. The next seed is thinking micronutrients. And micronutrients, of course, are vitamins. And so our vitamins can be very important. Vitamin B is very important for energy. And I just take a multivitamin, so I know it's all there. I've got iodine for thyroid. I've got all my micronutrients, all my micro minerals, and it's just there. I don't have to think about it. So, some people might argue, do we really need a vitamin? I say it's not going to hurt. It might help. Why not? It's also important to think about getting vitamin D. If you're north of Atlanta, and now it's Labor Day, we know that even if it's a sunny day, we're not going to get enough of the sun because of the angle. And so we're not going to get vitamin D to help our bones and to help our immune system. So it's really important to take vitamin D. A basic good dose is 2,000 units a day. Calcium, I'd much rather you get calcium from your food, such as leafy greens or broccoli or dairy products. And so it can be easy to go online, to look at our book and just to add up the calcium in your food. And I think if I get 3 good servings of calcium-rich food a day, I'm good. And of course, we think about calcium mainly for bone health. The next seed is fiber. Again, the goal is 35 grams per day. At True, we hand out a list of all different foods with different fiber options. So it's really able to, track your food for a couple days, look at the fiber content, and see where you might want to just make little change ups to add more fiber. For example, a sweet potato, instead of peeling it and boiling it, can you keep the skin on and roast it? And then when you eat it with the skin. Or make sweet potato fries with skin. That skin is really important for the fiber content, let's say, of a sweet potato. Can you choose blackberries or raspberries over an apple? So it's just looking at those simple substitutions to get your fiber up. And, the last seed is gratitude and meditation. And the thing is that, I forgot activity. We'll get to that real quick. But as we think about this very important seed, the mind-body connection, it's so important to think about our stress response. Need a little water here? I'm talking too much. So it's our mind-body connection is really important. So you think about Judy, you talked about wanting to catch up on sleep. A lot of women will say it's really hard to fall asleep because I can't turn off my brain. Or people will say I wake up in the middle of the night and immediately my brain starts going to everything I should have done, everything I need to do. And then I'm worrying about things that in the daytime I wouldn't even worry about. And so, the question is how can I quiet my mind to make sure whatever time I have allocated for sleep, I can get good quality sleep? And this whole concept of gratitude is really important to do that. Gratitude is one of the most important tools. This is good work by Dr. Benson. He wrote a book called The Relaxation Response. It's all about how do we get ourselves out of flight or fight. And gratitude is the most important tool. So what I recommend is to have a gratitude journal that you write in, let's say in the evening as you're calming down before bed. Write about what you're think about. If you don't like to write, can you just have a good think about what am I so thankful for that if I really thought about it, I would cry. I would feel very emotional, like it really is important to me. When we think about what we're really thankful for, again, we can calm our mind. And then it's to practice something called metered breathing, which is maybe a type of meditation. But basically, it's like closing the mouth, tongue in the roof of the mouth. There's an important pressure point that Suzanne has taught me about. So close the mouth, tongue on the roof of the mouth, and then just stare at a spot, eyes open, stare at a spot, and breathe so you're aware of the sound of your breath through your nose. So it's just to be very present in your body, to think about what you're thankful for, and then just to be present. Again, be present in your body. So it can be really important to do that before you go to sleep. So let's say you do your gratitude, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you're ready, you turn the TV off, and maybe outside of the bedroom, just sit on the couch, sit in the family room, wherever it's quiet. You can be by yourself, even if that's in the bathroom with a door closed. You just sit there for a minute and just be present in your body, settle things down, and then you feel yourself getting sleepy, go to bed. Let's say you get in bed and you're triggered to think about something right away. Get up, do it again. It's to retrain yourself that when I go to bed, I'm going to sleep. If you wake up in the middle of the night, same sort of thing. When you wake up, just say, okay, I got this. Get out of bed, go to the bathroom, drink some water, do your gratitude, do your meter breathing, and then get back in the bed. Every time I wake up to, and I start to maybe worry about stuff, I do the same thing. I think, do what you recommend to everyone else. I do it. It works every time. I can't tell you enough about that. And then our other C that I missed on the list, the activity. So activity is so important to think about. Like I alluded to earlier, it's about aerobic exercise, it's about strength training, and it's about stretching. And as you start back to the fall, and if you have a choice of one of these over the other to focus on, the number one to focus on during midlife and menopause is strength training. As you increase your muscle, it helps your body handle those sugars better. It helps you store calories into muscle instead of fat. So it's so important to do strength training. Strength training is one of those things that consistently will help you maintain your weight. It will help you, again, be able to have a treat. It'll be able to help you really understand how your body can age well at the weight that you're comfortable in. So strength training is one of those things that you can do resistance training, but it's finding something that you like to do, that you're able to do. I was talking to a patient who broke her arm this summer, and so she was like, I can't do planks, I can't do arm workout. But I asked her, but can you do strength training like squats, like lunges? Can you ride the spin bike, maybe at a very high intensity, but maybe go slower? So how can you start to build that muscle mass? And that's what will start to help you see results. The thing about muscle mass that makes it difficult is that it takes muscle to get muscle. So let's say your muscle mass is only at 22%. It's going to be a lot harder to go from 22 to 23 than it is from 23 to 24. So it's just to remind yourself, you're building your foundation, you're starting and steady. So if you could do some strength training 3 times a week, if you could do some strength training 3 times a week, aerobic 3 times a week, and then make sure you're also getting some steps in there. So it's thinking about all of that and then adding stretching. So stretching is one of those things that's so important for energy. It's important for recovery. And stretching allows our muscles to be at the optimal length to be the most powerful, and also to help us not get muscle spasms when we then try to relax and go to sleep. So again, whenever you have questions about where do I start, it's to go down the list of the seeds and just one by one slowly add them to your lifestyle. So over the next month, you can feel like you've really accomplished and added. You've got your water, then you start to get your sleep, hopefully. And then, so you go through all the seeds and then again, just add them very gradually. The last thing I want to talk about tonight is thinking about then, is it important to treat for menopause symptoms, for example? So when we think about treatment for menopause symptoms, in the workbook, I think it's really important to have what we call informed consent. So informed consent means that you, as someone who's thinking about taking a medicine, taking a therapeutic, is have you thought about the pros and the cons and the risks and the benefits, and what does that look like for you? So in the workbook, I have the symptoms across the top and possible options down the side. And so, of course, as more options come, and, there's more to put on this grid. But it's really important to understand, what symptom do I have that's bothersome, and what treatment might be, number one, safe for me, what might be effective for me, and what can I consider in terms of an option. When do I start it? Do I start it now? Do I start it later? And so those are really important conversations to have with your healthcare provider. So if you're not close to us here in Michigan and not able to see us at True, I would recommend you go to the website menopause.org and find a certified menopause provider in your area. It's so important to have informed consent. In medicine, it's so hard for a certain healthcare provider to know everything. And so when I was doing general OBGYN and I wasn't yet a menopause specialist, I didn't know about the hormone options. I didn't know about the deep dive into the studies that talk about what is safe and what isn't for whom. And so now as a menopause specialist, I do know a lot more about what's safe. And it's still something that, even if it's safe for someone in terms of the evidence, they might not feel comfortable. So we're not here to tell anyone what to do. It's only to offer options. And so it's for someone to think, I'm having hot flashes, I'm gaining weight, I can't sleep, I have vaginal dryness, bladder urgency, all those symptoms of menopause. What would be an option for me? So for example, a patient I saw the other day, she had had a hysterectomy. And so if she chooses to take estrogen, she doesn't need to take progesterone. She could take estrogen by itself. And so it was a discussion about that very important decision for herself. She had some concerns about potential risk of breast cancer. And we talked about how estrogen has been shown to not cause breast cancer, and it can be very safe. It's maybe the synthetic progesterone that would be a little bit more of a risk in terms of creating breast density. So bottom line, not to go into the details of that, but just to know that there's a lot of nuances that's, again, really important to understand, again, what you want, what your fears are, what your concerns are, and to have a discussion if treatment of menopause symptoms is safe for you. For example, let's say you've had breast cancer and taking estrogen wouldn't be safe, not that you've had breast cancer. We then would consider other options. So for example, we'll prescribe, again, after a woman has tried the seeds, we don't want her to suffer from these symptoms. And there are options such as a medicine called an SSRI, or a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So one that's been shown to be very effective for hot flashes is called Lexapro. Lexapro is also used for depression, anxiety, but it's very effective for hot flashes. So I'll have patients who say, well, I'm not depressed. Why would you give me an antidepressant? I'll say, I know you're not depressed. I'm not giving it to you for that. We know it also works for depression or for hot flashes, often at a lower dose than what we use to treat depression or anxiety. So again, it's using these tools to help with symptoms so then we can engage in that healthy lifestyle. For some women who have, let's say, prediabetes and they have menopause symptoms, sometimes with that weight gain, it's really important to get a handle on that. And sometimes using a medication to give them a break from some insulin resistance to help their body reset. We might use a medicine, let's say, as metformin or glucophage. It's a medicine that helps reset their body's way of handling sugars to give them a window of opportunity. It doesn't do the work for them, but if they're following a high fiber diet, lots of healthy protein, they're building muscle. Taking a medication can help them get ahead of it. And then they can go off the medication as they build muscle and build really healthy habits and get some of that stubborn weight off. So again, it's having those tools to look at that. If there's a woman who, for example, has vaginal dryness and it's inhibiting her ability to have intercourse with her partner because it causes pain, we can use vaginal estrogen to help treat those symptoms. There is no need to suffer. Bottom line, there are many options. And there are new medications coming out. Very soon, a medication by Bayer called elazinetant, which is the fancy medical name. We'll see what they call it for commercial use. But it's a medicine that helps that broken thermostat for women who can't or choose not to take estrogen. It is very effective for hot flashes, night sweats, sleep, and mood. So again, there are a lot of therapies coming out, and it's so important, again, to see a certified menopause practitioner who knows what these therapies are and knows who they're safe for and what works best. So I could keep talking about this for a long time. We've already gone maybe over time, but it's all about putting this together. So just to regroup, again, think about summer's done. We still have some nice weather in front of us. It's a wonderful time to reboot. So as we think about having a fresh start for fall, number one, think about what is your phase of ovarian function and what might be a barrier. What is your goal? How do you want to be, let's say, by the holidays or by springtime? And then where are you now compared to what your goal is? Once you understand that gap, it's to figure out what will it take. So go to the seeds and just start one by one, thinking about, I want to drink more water. What's my barrier? Maybe you're a teacher and you can't drink while you're teaching those kids because you can't go to the bathroom all the time. Okay. So can you drink a glass of water before you have that first cup of coffee? Another one in the car. Go to the bathroom when you get to work. You get what I'm saying is that you have a goal of getting your water in. Think about your barriers and problem solve. Us girls, we are good problem solvers. We have good workarounds. So put those tools into use that you use for everyone else. Put those tools into use for yourself and solve for that and have a fresh start into fall. So I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to continue to ask more questions. Check us out on truewomenshealth.com. Download the symptom circle or take a look at it. Download the Seeds ebook. Take the quiz about your symptoms, and you can figure out where you're at with our menopause transition scale. And I just wish you the best as you move into fall. And thanks for that, Lillian. I am going to take a little break, get a little snack, and get some rest tonight. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. And I wish you well as we move into fall. And just real quick, our next Facebook Live will be on October 12th. So we look forward to seeing you then. And please let us know your questions. Also a fun tidbit, I'm now back on WXMI or Fox 17 on Wednesday morning. So I'm just so overjoyed to reach as many women as possible on that larger forum. So any questions or feedback, please let us know and we'll make sure we address your questions. All right, take care. Be safe.